How's it going, everybody? My name is Artorigold, and it looks like the Overwatch devs have finally listened to us and gave us some more changes to Brig. Now, there was a forum post made by Geoff Goodman saying some of the changes that are going to hit the PTR soon probably come around on Monday. So what happened was there was a pretty heavy nerf to Brig, but then also kind of a buff. So we're going to go into these things and we're going to get really in depth with it. There was also some crazy changes to Doomfist, some pretty heavy nerfs to him, but I'm probably going to save that for another video because I have a lot to talk about with Brig. Seriously, there's a lot to go over. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the very first and biggest thing about Brig is the shield bash. Her stun had the damage reduced from 50 to 5. That is huge. This enables so many things. It allows Tracer to not be one-shot. So if we go ahead and do the math, what the combo used to be is you shield bash, you melee, cancel the animation with the flail, and the total damage of that is 155 damage, one-shotting people like Tracer and Baby D.Va if you get on her as well. Anybody who's at 150 HP is basically dead, mainly Tracer. So what this does is it turns that combo into 110 damage. That is a huge nerf. Now if there's a Tracer and you get in that range and you can do the combo, she can easily recall and then just blink out of there and she has no issue with it. The only real way to lock down the Tracer is if you do that combo and there is a teammate nearby who's able to help or assist you with that Tracer. Now this allows Tracer to kind of come back a bit more. I mean, Tracer was kind of always hard countered by Brig, and even if you were a god tier Tracer, anybody could swap to Brig and then just kind of deal with you. And even if you're playing Tracer and you completely ignore the Brig heal was so strong that it would save anybody from being one-clipped by a Tracer, right? She just uses E, and then bam, that guy's at full health and maybe even armor, and then your one-clip on whoever you're targeting is probably just, it's gone, it's done, you have to get out of there now. So this allows Tracer to definitely see a lot more gameplay, but at the same time, it also affects a lot of things, and I'll definitely get into that into a second. Second of all, I want to go into her passive. So they definitely wanted to try and compensate this and, you know, take away some damage, but not completely kill Brig. They wanted to try and keep her still relevant, and I think in this direction can be pretty decent, pretty good. I mean, she is kind of in that support role, so why not increase her healing? So what they did was they took her passive and they changed the cooldown from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. And then they made the duration of the passive increased from 5 to 6 seconds, and then made the total healing increased from 80 to 100. So by doing the math, how Brig is now, her passive will heal 16 health per second. With this change, it increases it to 16.667 healing per second. Now this isn't a huge buff, but it is a buff. It's gonna give her just 0.667 more healing per second, which really on paper, it's not a whole lot. I mean, it's, you know, it's in the decimals. It's not really a full point even of healing. It's definitely more healing, but is this going to be enough to compensate taking away that basically the hard counter ability of Brig to Tracer? I don't know, but I think maybe it's good that Tracer can't get one shot by Brig. I mean, you can still kill the Tracer. It's very easy to just, you know, have somebody help you. If anything, all you really need is probably a Discord orb. I didn't do the math on that, but if you Discord a Tracer and do the combo, even 110 damage, I think it'll probably kill her still. Either way, if you catch a Tracer out by playing as Brig, I think the Tracer definitely deserves to be punished, but at the same time, this definitely gives Tracer a little bit more, like, outplay potential. So we'll definitely see into that. One of the things that I also want to talk about with the healing, so the cooldown was reduced from 1.5 to 1 second. Now, what people might not know about this is, you activate your passive by hitting them with a melee or by hitting them with the flail, right? So let's get more in depth into this. So you do one melee attack, that activates the passive. The way it used to be is that your melee attack, it takes 0.6 seconds for one melee attack, meaning that's 3 melee attacks before the cooldown is up and you're able to activate the passive, or rather refresh the duration of the passive and let the healing go on for longer. So what does it mean when the cooldown goes to 1 seconds? Well, instead of 3 hits to refresh the duration, now it's only 2. So this is actually kind of crazy too when you think about it. Basically, it takes 1 less hit before you can refresh the duration of your passive, and the duration is increased, meaning that there's definitely going to be overall more sustainability to Brig. And there's a little bit more healing too. So let's really get into this. Brig's damage was nerfed, and she's not able to stun through shields, but yet her healing and her sustainability was increased. So this definitely makes her into more of a healer. However, it really helps her own sustainability even more. And let's go into this a little bit further. So what is GOATS? GOATS is typically a 3 healer, 3 tank composition, and it's mainly enabled by having a Brig on your team. And why is Brig so good? Because she's hard to kill, and she gives huge AoE radius around her team, keeping them alive, and then she's able to get her ult extremely quickly because she's healing everybody, similar to like a Lucio aura, and at the same time she's doing a lot of damage. Now, even though the damage was reduced on Shield Bash, the amount of ult charge that you gain is still the same. You get about 3% ult charge per shield bash, and the damage that you actually do doesn't affect it. You bash someone, and then bam, you get that ult charge. However, when it comes to the healing, the ult charge is like 1% per hero that is healed. And now, you're gonna be healing a lot more. Do you kind of see what I'm getting at here? Your healing is increased, your sustainability is increased, and Brig is still going to be really good in GOATS, and this change makes it so GOATS is going to have even more healing and even more sustainability. What I'm getting at is GOATS is stronger. Now, I know, this seems weird. I don't think Brig is going to be like overpowered and usable in every situation, but man, this is going to make GOATS stronger. So basically, there's kind of this paper, rock, scissors with the meta and how it is right now. So you have GOATS, and GOATS beats Brig McCree team comps, and Brig and McCree team comps beat Dive with Sombra and Doomfist. And Dive Sombra Doomfist defeats GOATS. So the only real way to counter GOATS is with a Sombra Doomfist dive and really effectively communicating with the focus targeting and callouts and being able to kill them one at a time, and Doomfist is really a big part of that. Well, what just happened to Doomfist recently? Doomfist was nerfed a lot. I mean, I haven't even gotten into those nerfs, so not only has Doomfist got nerfed, that's one of the bigger counters to GOATS, the healing potential of Brig is now higher as well. And now let's go into the other nerf that was in the last video. Brig's not able to shield bash through other shields. So one of the only ways to kill GOATS is to either like hard counter them with a Doomfist Sombra dive. Another good strategy is to run a GOATS comp against the GOATS comp, run a mirror match, and then just outplay them and use your ults better than they do, or maybe get your ult faster. And one of the big reasons why you're able to kill a Brig, and one of the easiest ways to kill a Brig, weirdly enough, was actually going Brig yourself in the GOATS and then shield bashing the Brig and being able to do that 150 damage combo on her and have your whole team focus the rest of the damage on her. But what just happened recently? The shield bash no longer goes through shields. So that means that Brig is no longer able to bash other Brigs. It's very easy for a Brig to hold right click and then just block it. So now you're not able to bash a Brig, which is kind of weird to think about. So that means the mirror GOATS against GOAT strategy is a lot less effective, and the defender has the advantage. Especially if this is a King of the Hill situation and you have the map, I mean, it's going to be almost impossible to get them off the point, and you're really going to have to focus on doing other strategies. In other words, I think Pharah, Mercy, and probably Junkrat are probably the best ways to deal with it. Doomfist is not as ideal against the GOATs. I mean, Doomfist used to be the pick to go against GOATs, especially comboed with Sombra. Sombra is still good. I'm not going to get into Sombra. Sombra is still good. But Doomfist, with all these nerfs, has a lot more difficult time killing GOATs, so really you're going to have to focus on projectile and artillery spamming the point, but at the same time, that's really difficult to do to GOATs, because what does a GOATs run? They run a Zarya and Diva, and if you're sitting there and you're spamming, rockets and Junkrat bombs, that's going to give Zarya maximum energy, who's probably the primary damage dealer of the GOATS comp, and she's going to be able to stay alive with 3 healers at maximum energy, get Graviton really quickly, and team wipe you every single time. And then we get into Diva. What's Diva good at? she's good at stopping projectiles, so she's able to just completely nullify all that damage coming in. So this makes things rather difficult for the competitive scene. Now, obviously on ladder, this isn't going to be the case. Ladder is a completely different game, and I think this is going to make Brig really terrible on ladder until you get to the really high elos where people are still running goats. Obviously, goats isn't going to be that team comp that's going to happen too often on ladder. People are going to pick whatever they want to pick. You got one tricks, you got, people who just do whatever they want to do. But what I'm talking about is the top level where people run goats, or just the Overwatch League scene in general. On that, I think Brig is stronger. I think that she's gonna be better. Goats is better. And partly that's also because Doomfist is weaker. The counters to Brig are not going to be as effective. Even though the healing per second is only going to be a little bit more, it's still more. That healing per second is gonna ramp up her ult charge as well. Think about that. She's gonna have rally even quicker. I mean, if you do the math, I'm probably guessing it's gonna be like 10 to 15, maybe even 20% more rally usage. You're gonna get your ult charge a lot quicker. The damage on the shield bash definitely makes Tracer a lot more viable, but if Goats is gonna be still really strong at the top level, then Tracer's still not gonna be that good, because Tracer doesn't work that well against Goats. She doesn't have enough damage output, and her pulse bomb doesn't even kill people. I mean, rally just makes it so even the squishies are gonna live through pulse bomb, and it doesn't really affect anything. So yeah, this is gonna be an interesting change. I think initially this means that a lot of Brig players at the lower level are gonna have a lot tougher time, and Tracers are gonna start bullying people on ladder a lot more, but at the higher level, we're gonna see Goat comps be stronger than ever, and the only way to really counter them now that Doomfist is seeing all these nerfs is to probably go a projectile spam, which it's kind of hard to do that unless you're really effective at focusing, and you have a D.Va and Zarya who are there to counter it, and Reinhardt shield, you can make it even tougher too. So there's a lot of things that work and play here, and ultimately I don't think this nerf is really good, but at the same time, at the top level, people are still going to be able to abuse Brig, no problem. Anytime there's a Goat situation, I think Goats is going to be even harder to kill. And then you take in a fact that you can't shield bash the enemy Brig. I mean, that was a huge thing. Being able to shield bash a Brig, as weird as that sounds, in the mirror matchup, bashing a Brig is how you kill the Brig, right? And now you're not able to do that anymore. It's very easy to block that as a Brig. I don't know if that was their intention. Obviously, their intention is they're trying to do a lot of things here. So I want to go into the forum post a little bit more, and basically what Geoff's plan is with these changes and what they're trying to do. So, the notes from the dev, basically what they're trying to do is overall, and this is the quote, overall, we're looking carefully at the amount of crowd control abilities such as stuns and knockbacks and things that remove control of your character away from you, and they're trying to see if they can remove or reduce the effectiveness of these changes. Now that's huge. Personally, I think CC is okay in Overwatch, but only at a certain amount, right? If you add too much of it, it's just overwhelming, right? You get all these things you gotta worry about. I mean, especially if you're a main tank player whose job is to try to protect your team from these abilities, which ultimately means that you're body blocking them, and then you just lose control of your character for the whole game, and it sucks. It's really tilting. But this is something that CC can have a good amount of in this game, but you really just don't want too much of it. If you have too much CC, it's miserable, and that's what the level we're at. And some of the CC is just way too strong. I mean, we have Orisa with her right click, we have Reinhardt with his pin, we got Reinhardt with his shatter, we got Roadhog with his hook, we got Winston booping people with his ult, and we got Wrecking Ball hitting people and slamming people, we got Zarya's Graviton keeps you in the same place, we got Ashe that's knocking you back, we got Doomfist who's punching you, Doomfist who's uppercutting you, Doomfist who's slamming you, we got Junkrat who can trap you, we got McCree who can flashbang you, we got Mei who can freeze you, we got Pharah who can boop you, we got Sombra who's gonna hack you and EMP you, we got Ana who could sleep you, Brig who can stun you, Lucio is gonna boop you. I mean, there's just too much CC. There's a lot of it, right? And every single character that's been added into the game recently feels like they have some sort of CC ability. Some of the CCs is okay. I'm okay with some CC, right? I mean, Lucio's boop, that's part of his kit. That's what he's meant to do. Ashe's boop, I think Ashe using her shotgun is fine. I mean, there's some CC that is okay. But once you add in too many characters with too much of it, then you get these team comps that are basically all CC abilities. Look at the dive meta. Doom and Sombra is the dive. You got Doom and Sombra, Winston D.Va, and then you have like Lucio Ana. You got a lot of different varieties of dive, but Doomfist and Sombra, you hack them, they can't move, they can't get away, they can't escape, and then you have Doomfist who just goes in and just CCs them to death or just one-shots them. I mean, you got Brig, who's able to go on Goats comps, you're getting hit around by flails and hammers, you're getting stunned by Brig. Then you got the McCree Brig comps, which is about defensive peeling. Someone dives you, bam, you get stunned, you get flashbanged, Brig beats you up, you get shot in the face, and you got fan the hammer in the way. I mean, there's so many things that's happening with CC right now. I really love that Geoff is saying that we are trying to get rid of or diminish the amount of CC that is in the game. I think that they weren't really planning on having this much CC, they were just focused on coming up with characters that was fun and unique, and I agree with that. I mean, look at Hammond, he's a really fun and unique character. He's not like super meta or super powerful, but he does have CC. But you don't really see anybody complaining about the CC from Hammond, but it's there, right? It's just a fun character to play, not too crazy meta, but he has a place and he has a use. And I think the problem is that you combine all these CC effects with one another and it's just too much and it's too overwhelming, and I'm really happy to see that Geoff is trying, or just the game developers of Overwatch in general, are trying to lower the amount of CC in the game. I do think it is too much. So I want to get into more why people think that she's a buff, and I really want to use these tweets that were made by Elk, the Philadelphia Fusion's main support, and he said that he sees that the Brig got nerfed on the PTR, and he's like, that's amazing, but then after a little bit he realized, oh my god, this is actually a buff, right? And as he says on Twitter, Brig is extremely hard to kill, and in GOAT situations, you got 3 healers and she's healing herself, and now Brig heals more, it's still very strong because she's not able to die. It's very hard to kill her because, in Elk's own words, the best way to kill a Brig was to bash her, and so now you just removed the best way to kill her. The bash through shield effect didn't really affect too much other than Rein and Brig versus Brig specifically, and being able to go into Goats and having the ability to stun a Brig and do the combo and being able to kill her was kind of one of the best ways to do that, and now that we removed it, we've definitely gone into a direction where at the top level of gameplay, I think we're gonna see a lot of Goats at Overwatch League, and personally, I'm a little tired of Goats. I mean, it's an interesting strategy, and it's definitely unique compared to like how many seasons of dive that we have, like season 4 to season 9, something like 4 to 5 seasons of just nothing but dive. It was nice and refreshing to get something other than that. I'm just kind of tired of Goats already, so for me, I would like to see this to be changed. It's kind of just more of an opinion at this point. I do like the idea of making Brig into more of a healer focused character, but as soon as you give her more sustainability, she's pretty hard to kill, and the rest of her team is going to be the same, and then you're going to get more ult charge, more rallies, and I mean, how are you supposed to deal with this from a meta perspective? Well, usually it'd be Somber Doomfist, but now Doomfist is nerfed, so what do we do? I don't know. It's really, really difficult to try and figure out, and I'm definitely going to go into Doomfist and all of his nerfs into a different video, but for now, I just really wanted to talk about Brig. Although Brig was nerfed on the damage ability, and I really do think that she's going to be really just like not good. Like on solo queue ladder, she's definitely gonna be a lot easier to outplay, which I love. I love that. I think that's great because, you know, if I'm solo queuing and ladder and I'm just trying to have a good time, trying to climb SR, I don't have to worry about Brig ruining my day, which is great, and I think a lot of people agree with that because the amount of things that she can do with the amount of mechanical skill it takes, I mean, the risk versus reward, it's insanely high for the reward end for any Brig players. So having this change is really good, and I think Tracer players are going to be happy, but at the same time, you can still outplay the Tracer as Brig. That doesn't mean that Tracer's completely dead, but I think the biggest thing we need to worry about is that even though this is a tiny buff to healing, it is still a buff to healing, and one of the biggest reasons why Goats is so strong is the sustainability of Brig, the survivability of Brig, and now she's gonna have more healing. Think about that. That's 0.667 healing on 6 characters all grouped up together, and then you throw things in like an Anonade on top of that. That's even more healing, and that's like a rally that's gonna come at you really quickly, which is gonna be really easy to win a team fight with, honestly. So yeah, I think that's all I have for this. It's kind of more of a rant video, and although Brig is gonna be a lot worse on solo queue ladder, I think on the higher level of things, and especially on teams like scrim matches and contenders, you know, open division, all that stuff, Goats, you're gonna be seeing a lot of it. I mean, this seems like Goats is gonna still be really strong. Whatever map you run Goats on, I mean, you just keep doing it. It's not going to change anything there. And Tracer, I still think is not going to be picked, even though Brig is like a lot worse on the top level of things. I don't think a good Tracer at the top level is still going to outweigh the ability of a Brig, because even though you're not going to one-shot Tracer with the combo, you're still able to have support from your team and just put in, 40 damage, and then you're able to kill her. And that's really not too difficult for anybody, as long as you call it out and you're vocal about that you got Tracer there, or maybe just if she gets discorded and that's all you need. So either way, that's all I have to say about this nerf. Although I fully welcome it, I'm also kind of cautious of it as well. It's interesting to see what they're going to do with Brig in the future. I would really like to see what you guys think about this in the comments. Do you think this makes Brig completely dead? Or do you agree with me and think that Brig's healing is a lot better, or just a little bit better to compensate? Is the buff on the healing compensating for the damage? Do you think she's still going to be as strong in GOATs as I think? Or do you disagree? You think I'm, wrong? I don't know. Tell me. I'm curious to see what you guys think about it, and I'll be sure to get back to you in the comments the best I can. Make sure to leave a comment. I'll definitely try to read all of them and reply to as much as possible. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. If I'm completely wrong, if I'm right, agree, disagree, whatever. I'd love to hear it, guys. Anyways, thanks so much. That's all I have for today, and I'll see you guys next time.